Whispers of OakHaven, written by Neil Gaiman. OakHaven, a name whispered more than spoken, a town forgotten by time, shrouded in mist and secrets. Ancient oaks, gnarled and twisted, lined the streets, their branches clawing at the sky. The air hung heavy with the scent of damp earth and something ancient, something unsettling. Legends clung to OakHaven like cobwebs. Stories whispered around flickering campfires, tales of a haunted cave on the edge of town, a place where darkness reigned and shadows moved with a life of their own. The old folks spoke of whispers carried on the wind, of unseen eyes watching from the woods. They warned of the cave, a gaping maw that swallowed the curious and the foolish. But legends are for children, or so thought the two teenage boys, their laughter echoing through the stillness of the approaching night. They were drawn to the mystery, lured by the thrill of the unknown, blind to the darkness that awaited within the cave's depths. Mark, impulsive and fearless, dared his best friend David to enter the cave. David, quieter, more cautious, felt a tremor of unease. Yet, the challenge hung in the air, a test of courage he couldn't resist. The setting sun cast long shadows as they approached the gaping maw of the cave, its entrance swallowed by darkness. A cold wind blew from within, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else, something faintly metallic. David shivered, pulling his jacket tighter.
Ready?
Mark asked, a glint in his eye. David hesitated, then nodded, pushing down his fear. He wouldn't show weakness, not in front of Mark. They stepped into the darkness, their footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. The mouth of the cave swallowed them whole, the last rays of sunlight vanishing behind them. The air inside the cave was thick and heavy, filled with the scent of decay and damp earth. The path, barely visible in the dim light of their flashlights, wound deeper into the earth. The boys stumbled over loose rocks, their laughter echoing off the damp walls. As they ventured further, the air grew colder, the darkness more profound. The silence was broken only by the sound of dripping water and their own ragged breathing. Then, a faint sound carried on the breeze, a low, guttural moan that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the cave. David's blood ran cold. He stopped, shining his light down the tunnel. "Mark, did you hear that?" he whispered, his voice tight with apprehension.
It's just the wind, scaredy cat. Come on.
But David couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, its eyes gleaming in the darkness. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern. David gasped, his breath catching in his throat. Before them lay a town, cloaked in an eerie silence. Buildings stood like skeletal remains against a backdrop of perpetual twilight. A single pale moon hung suspended in the sky, casting long, distorted shadows across the deserted streets. There was no sign of life, no movement save for the dust swirling in the stagnant air. The silence was absolute, broken only by the pounding of David's heart.
"What is this place?"
he whispered, his voice barely audible above the sudden ringing in his ears. Mark, for once, was speechless. He stared at the desolate landscape, a flicker of unease crossing his face. The town, bathed in the unnatural moonlight, felt wrong, like a scene from a nightmare. They had stumbled into something ancient, something best left undisturbed.
A low growl, guttural and chilling, shattered the silence.
"What is that?" David whirled around, his heart pounding in his chest. Emerging from the shadows of a nearby building, a creature shambled into view. It was vaguely humanoid in shape, but twisted and grotesque. Its skin, stretched taut over bones, was a sickly gray-green, slick with some viscous fluid. Its eyes, two glowing embers in the darkness, fixed on the boys, and a wave of primal fear washed over David. The creature's most horrifying feature, however, was its mouth. Stretched in a grotesque grin, it revealed rows of long, jagged teeth dripping with a thick black saliva.
Mark choked out, his voice barely a whisper. David didn't need an answer. He knew with a sickening certainty that they were in terrible danger. The creature, which David silently dubbed a slob for lack of a better word, lunged. Its speed was deceptive, its movement swift and predatory. David reacted instinctively, grabbing Mark's arm and yanking him out of the way. They scrambled back, adrenaline surging through their veins. The slob slammed into the spot where they had been standing a moment before, its long teeth snapping shut on empty air. David scanned their surroundings, his mind racing. They needed a weapon, something, anything to defend themselves with. His eyes fell on a pile of rubble near the base of a crumbling building. broken pieces of wood, rusty pipes. Anything could be a weapon in this desperate situation.
Mark, the rubble!
David shouted, already sprinting towards the pile of debris. He grabbed a length of rusty pipe, feeling its reassuring weight in his hand. Mark, his initial shock wearing off, followed suit, picking up a jagged piece of wood. The slob, momentarily thwarted, let out a frustrated roar. Its glowing eyes followed their every move.
We need to get out of here. There could be more of them.
Mark nodded, his face pale but determined. They backed away slowly, their makeshift weapons raised. The slob hesitated, sensing their newfound resolve. It paced back and forth, its growls a low rumble in the stillness. David took a deep breath, trying to calm his racing heart. They needed a plan, a way out of this nightmare. But where could they go in this deserted town?
The library. Maybe we can find something useful there, a map or something.
David scanned their surroundings, his eyes searching for any sign of an escape route. That's when he noticed it. A building at the far end of the street, its facade less dilapidated than the others. A faded sign above the entrance read, OakHaven Public Library.
All right, let's go, but we need to be careful.
Mark, his eyes darting nervously between David and the slob, nodded. They edged their way down the street, keeping a wary eye on the creature. The slob, as if sensing their intentions, let out a frustrated roar. It took a step towards them, but then seemed to hesitate as if held back by some unseen force. David exchanged a puzzled look with Mark. Why hadn't it attacked?
Come on, let's go.
They reached the library entrance, its doors hanging open like a silent invitation. David took a deep breath and stepped inside, the musty scent of old books filling his nostrils. The library, though dusty and neglected, was a haven from the oppressive atmosphere of the town. Shelves lined the walls, crammed with books, their spines faded with age. David ran his fingers over the worn leather, a sense of strange comfort washing over him. It was then that he noticed a book lying open on a table in the center of the room. Its pages, brittle with age, were filled with strange symbols and diagrams. One illustration in particular caught his eye. It depicted a group of figures surrounding a glowing portal, their hands raised in a ritualistic gesture. The figures in the drawing were dressed in robes, their faces hidden by hoods. But something about their posture, the way they seemed to be channeling energy towards the portal, sent a shiver down David's spine. He had stumbled upon something ancient and powerful, something that filled him with a sense of both dread and fascination.
This isn't just a collection of stories and legends. It's a guide, a map to escape this forsaken place.
The book, David realized with a jolt, wasn't just a collection of stories and legends. It was a guide, a map to escape this forsaken place. The portal depicted in the illustration, he was certain, was the key to getting back home. But how to activate it? He scanned the pages, his heart pounding with a mixture of hope and fear. The ritual, he read, required a sacrifice, a conduit to channel the energy needed to open the portal.
A sacrifice? What does that even mean?
David's blood ran cold. A sacrifice? What did that even mean? As if on cue, the slob let out a deafening roar. David looked up to see the creature standing in the library doorway, its eyes burning with an unnatural intensity. It was being drawn towards them, compelled by some unseen force. The sacrifice, David realized with a sickening certainty, was meant to be them.
We need to find another way.
David slammed the book shut, his mind racing. He had to find a way to activate the portal, to escape this nightmare, but not at the cost of their lives. The slob advanced, its heavy steps shaking the floorboards. David grabbed Mark's arm, pulling him towards the back of the library.
We need to find another way.
But there was no time. The slob was upon them, its fetid breath hot on their necks. David closed his eyes, bracing for the inevitable. But the expected pain never came. Instead, a blinding light filled the room, accompanied by a deafening roar. David opened his eyes to see the book radiating an otherworldly glow. The air crackled with energy, and the slob let out an ear-splitting shriek, its body contorting as if in agony. The portal was opening. David didn't hesitate. He grabbed Mark's hand and ran towards the blinding light, the slob's roars echoing behind them. The light consumed them, and then everything went black. They were back in the cave, the familiar scent of damp earth filling their nostrils. The book lay on the ground, its pages blank. David and Mark stumbled out of the cave, blinking in the sunlight. They never spoke of what they had seen, but the memory of that night, the haunted town, and the creatures that lurked within would forever haunt their dreams. And in the whispers of the wind, they sometimes thought they heard a faint guttural moan, a chilling reminder of the